this land is the traditional territories of the First Peoples of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe peoples of Beausoleil First Nations, Chippewas of Ramba First Nation, and Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for their generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still home to the many Indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the forced sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. And just a few housekeeping issues. So if you are not speaking, if you could please mute your audio, and I will attempt to do that so you don't hear me typing all of the time. And to let you know that this meeting is recorded and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, for which we will be retained according to the town's retention bylaw. And for more information, you can speak to the clerk's services for that. And just before we begin tonight, on behalf of Innisfil Council, we join other local politicians, our communities and residents in standing in solidarity against the atrocities occurring in Ukraine and in support of the Ukrainian people. We are compelled by our own common sense of humanity to reject this violence and stand for peace and democracy. And we're sending our thoughts and prayers to those currently in Ukraine for their safety and security, and to those in our community who have loved ones that they are so concerned about. And we stand with and for a peaceful and independent Ukraine. We'll now move to the agenda and look to open forum and see if we've had anybody registered for open forum this evening, in which we have had none. We'll then go to the approval of the agenda, and I would ask that Deputy Mayor Davidson and Councillor Ices, if they would move and second the recommendation to approve the agenda as printed. All those in favor? That's carried. Next, we'll ask if there's any disclosures of pecuniary interest. I'm seeing none, but if one becomes apparent to you while we're discussing it, please let us know and we'll take the appropriate actions. Next is item number 5, and that's presentations and petitions, and we have none of those this evening. We also have no delegations this evening. So we'll move right into item number 7, which is County Council, municipal associations, conservation authorities, any committee that you sit on behalf of the town of Innisfil. Any updates on any of those committees? Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to remind our public that the libraries have some amazing programs for March break for the kids. And so please check out the websites for what's available in your area. And many of them are virtual online. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Councillor Orsatti. Any other, Councillor Feller?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick reminder that the time of year is coming around where we're hoping and planning for another pitch-in day. We're having our first meeting tomorrow night to see what options we have available, what we can do, and if we can make it a more intimate event than last year where we all had a social distance. We're going to see if we can, what options we have, and move forward to beautify our town once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor, anything from the county?
Thank you, Worship. I think it's one of our quickest meetings at the county this week, with under an hour. So there was just, I did notice the thank you letter from Innisfil to the county regarding the assistance with the new waste pickup bins and the collaboration that took place with the county and our residents. And there's still opportunities, I think, out there for people to get a smaller bin if they chose to by going to the county website. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, that was very nice, Councillor Payne, of your committee to send that letter, and it was very appreciated by all of County Council. The only thing I would add is that we also received our annual general report for the Simcoe County Forests. And Simcoe County Forest was formed in 1922, and it is the oldest and largest municipal forest in Ontario. And this year we received an award from the Canadian Industry of Forestry as Forest Capital of Canada. Because it's our 100th year. It's actually, we're the only municipality in all of Canada to actually get that award twice. We received it once in the 80s as well. There's about 33,000 acres of county forest in the county. And not only does it provide the environmental benefits and the natural habitat, it also provides recreation opportunities. There's lots of groups that have signed a deal with the county to use the forest, and it's financially sustainable as well. The revenue from the timber sales goes into a dedicated reserve account, and that money then goes into buying more county forests. So it's just a real good news story, and the entire report is on the county website, and I'd be happy to forward it to anyone who would be interested in learning more about the county forests. And now I'll go to the Emergency Operations Center for an update. And Ms. Ray.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Council, the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit reports a continued downward trend in COVID-19 cases and severity. However, we should still be prepared for the potential of future variants and future waves. Third doses of the vaccine continue to offer increased protection against transmission and increased protection against disease severity. Proof of vaccination requirements have been lifted in all settings. However, workplaces are still required to provide passive screening for staff, and masks are still required while indoors. Employers will need to evaluate whether their current vaccine policies are adjusted or removed depending on their risk factors. The Go Vax bus is booked for the Innisfil Recreation Center tomorrow, March 10th, and again on Sunday, March 20th. It will be in the north lot between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. on both dates. Regarding the regulation changes from March 1st and their impact on town facilities, proof of vaccination is no longer required to enter facilities. Remaining capacity limits have been lifted. Passive and self-screening is still required. Town safety plans are still required and have been updated and posted on our website. We are looking at resuming special events, but we're continuing to follow any guidelines from the province and our local health unit. Customer service is open 5 days a week, and town council meetings will continue to meet virtually, and our town emergency declaration remains in place for the time being. And finally, as you've no doubt heard, the province announced today that mask requirements in most settings will be lifted effective March 21st. However, there's still the warning that the risk of COVID-19 is not gone and that masks continue in helping to avoid the transmission. The province will also recommend removing all remaining directives by the end of April to move away from emergency management. Given that this announcement just came out today, the update has not been discussed by EOC just yet, but the group will review what implications this has for the town and we'll share it back.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Ray. Any more comments, questions on any of the items discussed under item 7? Seeing none, we'll move right into our consent agenda, and we'll start. For those who may not be regulars at our council meetings, our consent agenda items, every report is brought forward. Council has the opportunity to ask questions. They can pull it for further debate. If it isn't pulled, there'll be a recommendation, a resolution passed when we go back into council, and to pass all of the recommendations that were not altered by council. So we'll start with A1, which is the adoption of the minutes from February 23rd. B1, the School Zone Traffic Safety Advisory Committee meeting notes. C1, the County of Simcoe Regional Fire Services review. Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Just to comment, Your Worship, I'm glad to see this come moving forward. We're going in the right direction. And I think as we continue to work forward, hopefully we will see some cost savings that we can pass on to the taxpayers in the near future. So I'm glad to see this being done, and I have big trust in it. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw Chief Thomas on here. Any comments, Chief Thomas?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, I agree with Deputy Mayor's comments. It's good that we can realize some efficiencies and some good work together. We're able, so we're happy to participate and glad that we're able to do it.
Thank you, Chief. So, Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that there's been a lot of background work by staff and both Innisfil and Bradford into this, and anybody who's gone into the agenda and pulled up the additional items on it would have an opportunity to read those many documents. So thank you for our fire chief and staff for all the work behind us.
Thank you for that, Councillor. And also, I like that it pulls the two together. So the service review at the county and the work that we've been doing independently with Bradford. So I think that's appropriate to have them in one place. Next is item C2, the plan of subdivision amendment applications for 299 Sunnybury Avenue. Councillor Ices.
I'd like to refer that, please.
There are no staff reports for information. There are no bylaws, and there are no correspondence for action. So we'll move to correspondence for information. We have G1, the South Simcoe Police Services Board minutes. Councillor Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not looking to pull it. I'm just looking to point out that anybody who is actually curious about how the South Simcoe Police work with the community and the level of effort they put into just the concerns that are brought forth, it's actually a very interesting read. The amount of work over the holidays, the coffee with a cop, the amount of Coast replies that they've been out with, you got to give them a lot of respect. South Simcoe Police has done very good for our community, and I'm grateful for it. So just want to say thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Fowler. Next is G2, the Innisfil Public Library Board minutes from January 17th. G3, the County of Simcoe meeting highlights from February 22nd. And G4, the proclamation of March 26th as Purple Day for Epilepsy in Simcoe County. Seeing none, we'll then ask that for the consent list recommendation with item C2 as the only item that's been pulled this evening, and we'd ask Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Orsatti to move and second that recommendation as seen on the screen. All those in favor? That is carried. Next is, we'll go to item C2, and I'll go to Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. I wonder if I could have a fellow councillor second it. Councillor Nicol, thank you. Yeah, so I had really 3 questions about the application. And some of this would have been talked about at the public meeting when that was had in the past. So my 3 questions are to do with, the first one would be the lot 19 access for construction purposes. In phase 1, there's a vacant lot that would be a connecting point to the new construction. I know some of the residents are very concerned about that being used as an access point for this project. So maybe I could start there and ask if there is what the plan is from the builder on that lot as it relates to this project.
Thank you. I'll go to, who shall I go to? Ms. Nordstrom, thank you.
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Ices' question. So lot 19, it is the intent for lot 19 to be developed for residential lot in the future. The only any works relating to the proposed water main will occur on that lot, but that there will be no access to the overall construction of phase 2 via lot 19, but that there will be, the works will be limited to the future residential dwelling on that lot and the water main works through that lot.
So if I could follow up on that, just it becomes difficult on construction sites to enforce some of those things. And I'm just wondering, it becomes complaint based. That first phase, there was a lot of construction impact on the residents in the area. I guess I don't have a suggestion, but is there a way to put a bit of teeth behind that? Again, I wish I had a suggestion, but I'm just worried that throughway becomes problematic for the residents that are there.
Ms. Nordstrom?
Your worship, as a follow-up to the Councillor IC's question, so there is a condition in the draft plan conditions, and it's condition number 9 that speaks to restricting construction access. So that will be something that will be embedded in the future subdivision agreement. So we are sort of using as many tools as we have available to ensure that intent as expressed by the developer will be followed through in terms of the construction of that lot.
Councillor Ices, I am sorry about this. I have to interrupt just for a moment. I've made a procedural faux pas that we didn't resolve into committee of the whole. I see Councillor Nichols nodding. He probably caught it and I didn't. So can I please ask Councillor Nicholl and Councillor Payne to move and second that we resolve into committee, and all in favor? That is carried. I apologize, and go ahead, Councillor Ices.
No worries at all. My second question has to do with my understanding with the first phase is there was no parkland constructed there, and there was the developer paid cash in lieu of that. So I'm wondering about this phase, what the setup is with regards to parkland.
Through your worship, to regarding the question regarding parkland. So similar to phase 1, we are securing through the conditions of draft approval to obtain cash in lieu so that we can, better allocate those funds. Usually it's a townwide pot that the cash in lieu funds go to, but there is the sort of concurrent Land and Lakes master plan that is underway right now that is looking at specifically what park improvements are being planned for across the town, including Stroud. And there is the parkland within Stroud that is being looked at for upgrades. So there will be cash in lieu that's obtained for this phase 2, similar to phase 1. And there are upgrades that are being looked at through the Land and Lakes master plan for the park in Stroud.
Just to follow up then, so I can assure the residents of Stroud that the cash that is being given in lieu of parkland will be staying in parks in Stroud instead of being allocated elsewhere. I guess that's important to the Stroud residents.
Yeah, to see Leo.
Go ahead, Mr. Deloitte.
Typically, the disposition of park dedication funds are dealt with through budget processes and the Land and Lakes master plan. So there isn't a guarantee they'll be spent in Stroud, but there is other developments south of Victoria that contemplate some parks and open space close by. So we think Stroud will be well served by parks.
Thank you for that. And then my third question is about the proximity of the development to the rail line. I know in the past we've had presentations about other parts of Innisfil about the impact of rail on residential areas. And I know that, you know, there is a buffer there of 12 meters, and there is going to be some fencing put up there. I guess I just wanted to ask for comments on that situation. Are we comfortable with that being able to alleviate those concerns that can occur? And thankfully, there's only 2 lots that I saw right next to the rail line, but there will be impact there for sure.
Ms. Nordstrom?
Yeah, through your worship. So the subdivision has been designed to, you know, create as much separation between these lots and that and the rail line through that Window Street configuration, and the berming and fencing that are being proposed certainly do meet the requirements for sound attenuation, and there's noise clause warnings as well for future purchasers in terms of the whistle crossings and the noise associated with it. And so, yeah, we are satisfied, and also see, you know, that corridor as an important infrastructure for Innisfil and its growth. And we each time you put new residential units in close proximity to it, you need to look at the range of tools that are available, and that has been done here. We're satisfied that that's been done.
Thank you. Those were my questions with regards to this development.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions? Deputy Mayor Davidson?
Thank you, Ursula. Through Councillor Isis, I did read this report about the berm and such, and trees and such, and fetch and such. Yes, I understand it's going to be in their deeds when they read it, but let's face it, a lot of people really don't read their deeds. We've dealt with this down in Lefroy, all down that way, and they move into the house. The next thing you know, we've got a complaint. They want to stop the whistles. Well, you got the house a little cheaper because it is where it is. I think it's really up to the real estate agents to do their job of due diligence and make sure that people are fully aware. But you can guarantee 2 years from now, we'll have somebody complaining they want the whistle stopped or the house is vibrating. So it's unfortunate we have development so close to these tracks, but it seems to be the norm. So be prepared. That's all I'm saying. Thanks.
Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. Just one thing that I thought of in regards to the berm as Councillor Isis is speaking and our deputy mayor follow-up is that from my experience of these berms in my ward, if they're naturalized berms and not grass ones on new homes, I wonder if you know, there could be signage. I would recommend that if there's some signage that's placed in that naturalized area, explaining that it's naturalized and the benefit of doing that, that reduces, you know, people complaining to the ward councillor and to the town itself. It's about education. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other comments or questions? My questions, I think, have mostly been answered. I was surprised that there were no delegations or open forum tonight, because we did get a certain quite a number of people who came to the original public meeting. So I actually checked with the clerk's office to make sure that they had been made aware that this was on the agenda this evening, and was confirmed that that had happened. You know, what we heard most about was that lot 19, and I think that if as far as, you know, what Councillor Icy said about making sure that it doesn't turn into a construction entranceway, I think just letting the existing residents know what's in the subdivision agreement, and they'll be our eyes and ears for us should the subdivision agreement not be followed. And And then about the parkland dedication, I just wanted to comment on that because I recall Councillor Lougheed making a change to make sure that the parkland dedication stayed within Stroud for that particular subdivision. And it is typical for large estate residential lots not to have parks. If you think of Innisfil Heights, for instance, there's no parkland there. But it is a dangerous precedent because then you get Alcona saying, you know, we don't want any of our money going anywhere. And then you get Lefroy saying it and Churchill saying it and everybody, and then you're managing, the treasurer's office is managing, 14 reserve accounts for park dedication and all divvied up. You don't have the mass you need to do the big projects because there's just little bits in each of the pockets. So I think my advice would be to really get involved in the Land and Lake. Make sure your ward and your communities are well represented in the Land and Lake and that their needs are looked after. And if it's in that plan, it'll get built. Not tomorrow, but it'll get built out. So that would be my advice going forward as far as parkland dedication is concerned. Any final comments? Councillor Waters.
Just some clarification concerning the Metrolinx rail line that's there. They asked for a 12-meter widening of the rail corridor for passive use. Do we know what they mean by that? Because I know originally there planned to be 2 sets of rails going north. I know it's stopping at Bradford right now, but is that just, do we know whether or not they're going to be planning a second rail at some point in time? Is that what it's used for? Or what do they mean by passive use? Thank you.
Yeah, through your worship, to Councillor Waters, that they that 12 meters that Metrolinx is securing that's not where a second rail would go. That's the passive use is really for like the berming and the buffering in the event of derailment. It's a safety measure and not for a second line that's going to bring a rail way closer to those lots, those units.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kane, something to add?
Just in terms of timing, through to Councillor Waters of that second line, yes, the second line will eventually go to Barrie. As many of us know, that time frame was approximately 10 years out, a couple of years ago now. So as far as we know, that timeline hasn't changed. I know that Metrolinx is actively, I think recently awarded a contract for the design build as far north as Bradford. So it's one of the questions we're actually asking them next week, just for an update on that. And we'll be hearing about that update as Orbit matters to come before council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments? Seeing none, the recommendation has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And now the RISE recommendation is moved by Councillor Waters and seconded by Councillor Fowler. All those in favor? That is carried. And consideration to adopt the recommendations from Committee of the Whole. And so that will be moved by Deputy Mayor Davidson, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we will move into notices of motion. Our first notice of motion, that notice has been given, is Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you, Your Worship. I put this notice of motion forward because I feel that with our community growth and the upcoming election term, that this is the right time to look at building the way that we communicate and recruit for our municipal committees and boards. And that's to ensure that we're representing an inclusive and diverse population while providing members with the skills and information that they need as committee members. And the best way to do this is to create a guiding document, to have staff create that. And that would be for the next term of council that guides this process for residents on the term, on the membership, on the recruitment process, the representation, skills needed, and how vacancies are filled. And I feel that the creation of this of a recruitment committee with representatives of various stakeholders would also benefit this process. They would look at this through a diversity lens, specific areas to contact for membership, to get the skills required, to build upon the work that the current committees have identified, and that they would also look at communication strategies to share this information with local organizations and groups to ensure we're capturing inclusive and diverse representation of our community. And the guiding document, I think it could look at communications, clarification, again, of skills needed, educational opportunities for committee members to ensure the best practice for recruitment, and for the public that is interested to have a better understanding what's required of committee members and what happens with vacancies if someone decides they don't like it, or it's too, it doesn't fit them, or someone needs to retire for health reasons or whatever. And also, with the next term as to vacancies. And this would look at the opportunities available for those members for educational workshops and seminars and explain to them the process. And, I think of, different examples of 4 committees. I think of the Heritage Committee, them coming to council and talking many times about the need for architectural skills and those members. So this will provide an opportunity for a recruitment committee to maybe go out to different organizations, maybe even Innisfil students that are in college that are interested in architecture, to let them know about these opportunities. The library that, is a leader in the community, spent just the time creating this land acknowledgement committee and a statement rather. And I think also that it would allow them to have input into the recruitment process that reflects the diversity that's in our community and the programs and the education that they provide and the communication process that we have in the town. Currently, when next terms of council come about, applications or notifications are put in the local newspaper. I'm sure for many councillors, you see them at the end of driveways in their box, never even opened. Other people don't receive them, and others may go online, but maybe it's too late and they don't feel that they have enough information. So I think that this really is about building upon the process that we have, and in time for the next committee. But I am concerned, it does state in this that consideration before June, and that's because the committees and boards end in June. And if a draft could be prepared and shared with the current committees and boards, members to get their input before it returns to council for approval. And I know that this is asking a lot of staff right now. However, I feel that this will really assist staff in the recruitment process, and it'll also prepare new committee members with the tools and the information they need in the future. And it's something I've thought about for the last year, and with the upcoming election, it's coming up quick, and the end of these committees in June. I feel the time is now to get this done. I've had a discussion with our deputy clerk, Patty Toma, regarding the policy and the turnaround deadline. And happy to, maybe if we want to just clarify with Ms. Toma on whether that is doable, would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Ms. Toma.
Thank you, Councillor Sadi. Ms. Toma.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Council. I agree with Councillor Sadi that this is very timely, and I appreciate her bringing this forward. The clerk's team has been looking at developing a policy that would address and ensure that the creation and administration of the town's committees and boards is conducted in a fair and equitable manner and in accordance with appropriate legislation or council-approved policies. This policy could provide guidance for council staff and the public regarding the process and procedures associated with the framework of the town's committees and boards and how they are supported with respect to recruitment, appointment, meeting procedures, and how they report to council. I also believe that consulting with current members of the town's committee and boards would be invaluable for their knowledge regarding the life cycle and requirements associated with how committees and boards are created, administered, and supported. And I also believe that this should come back to council before the end of June. So our team will get working on this immediately. We'll bring best practices into the policy, share it with the current members, and then we'll bring that back to council. Hopefully first cycle in June is what I would be targeting.
Thank you, Thank you, Deputy Clerk Toma. Questions or comments from anyone? Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Worship. I have no concerns with the motion as it is. Just curious if Councillor Sadi has a second. If not, I'm happy to be the seconder for her to get it on the table so we can discuss this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I appreciate that.
Any other questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Davidson.
There you, Councillor Sadi. I'm glad to see you bring this forward. It may make it easier for people to understand and maybe get more involved with the town and with the different committees that are out there. I think when it's clear and concise, they know what they're getting into, and I think then it's a good direction for the next council. Appreciate your work. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Sadi.
Thank you. Just sort of last minute. I think the opportunity of being able to go out to different organizations and throughout the town is a good way to spread the word. And I didn't want anyone to feel that this in any way speaks about the current committee members that we have, because we have very passionate members on all of these boards that work so hard. And this is building upon what they have created, because many will be leaving, deciding to move on or retire. And it's about the vacancies to build upon what they've been working so hard on to achieve, and checking with them on what's working and what's missing.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That's carried. We have another notice of motion this evening. That notice has been given, and that from Councillor Nicol. And Councillor Nicol, I'll know you'll tell me who your seconder is.
Your Worship, seconded by Councillor Alex Waters. I think my motion is quite self-explanatory. I'm happy to elaborate, though. Clearly, dealing with the past 2 years of the pandemic, priorities have had to be adjusted for all of us, whether it's personally, municipally, provincially, and federally. We've all pivoted and adapted, but there have been promises and pledges that have been made to help Lake Simcoe that I think need to be realized now. The previous government, federal government, created the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund, which contributed about $59 million between 2007 and 2017. That funded over 200 projects, but that funding was not renewed. During the 2019 federal election, the Honorable Chrystia Freeland committed $40 million over 4 years towards Lake Simcoe. But that was 4 years ago, and no funding to my knowledge has ever happened, unless that's suddenly going to be happening this spring. Through last year's federal election, there was another commitment to implement a strengthened freshwater action plan, including a historic investment of over $1 billion over 10 years to protect and restore large lakes, including Lake Simcoe. Also, during both the 2019 and 2021 general elections, there were those who committed to refunding the Lake Simcoe Cleanup Fund with investments of about $30 million over 5 years. I think it's time for these promises and pledges to be realized. Obviously, the lake and the watershed don't care what the reasons for the delays are. I do know that similar motions are being heard around the watershed. So I think we have an opportunity to band together with our neighboring municipalities to help Lake Simcoe and the watershed starting this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nicol. Questions or comments on this motion? Deputy Mayor Davidson.
Thanks for you. Councilor Nicholas, glad to see this again. I think this started off about 16 years ago with Ladies of the Lake and the awareness that was brought to the lake when it was basically dying. They fought hard to get a lot of this money contributed to Lake Simcoe. But I do have something, and after your number two, second point, it's very interesting, the planting of approximately 250,000 trees within the watershed. When Friday Harbor was decided upon at that time, I don't think I was in council, they were supposed to plant 50,000 trees within the town of Innisfil to replace the trees that had been removed. And they negotiated a contract with the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority that, oh, we'll take over that, we'll plant those 50,000 trees within the watershed of Lake Simcoe. I've yet to hear to this day, and I work with South Simcoe Streams Network for the last 16 years, in which we planted thousands, tens of thousands of trees in South Simcoe and Innisfil. And I know that our staff are working hard with South Simcoe Streams Network to continue the tree planting. And as Councillor Waters, you're seconding this, I think you should really question the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. Where's that 50,000 trees? Where have they planted them? Because they're obligated to do it, but I've never heard anything about it. So maybe this will sort of get them moving in the right direction again. So I appreciate this notice of motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. I'm sure Councillor Waters would be happy to look into that with the LSRCA. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the recommendation? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Councillor Nichol. Next, we'll go to announcements. Is there any announcements for the good of the community? Councillor Nichol.
Thank you, Worship. Maybe just a little good news as we start coming out of this this turn. Just happy to announce that the South Simcoe Theatre actually reopened this past weekend. They were delayed. They were supposed to open on Thursday, but they did open on Sunday for their very first show. So a little bit of levity and entertainment in Cookstown is returning. So we're kind of slowly making that turn. So congratulations to all of those volunteers that have worked so hard to get that back together.
Thank you, Councillor Nichol. Although I don't know if I would call it levity because it's a psychological thriller, but still kind of puts you on the edge of your seat, I would think. I haven't seen it yet. So anyone else? Announcements? Councillor Van Berkel.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to thank the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Lloyd, and yourself for taking care of some of the things that happened in my ward while I was away, and particularly our crew that looked after the flooding. I got a half a dozen calls, and apparently they did a terrific job, like they always do, and I want to thank them, and yourself and the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Lloyd.
Thank you, Councillor. However, I think all of the thanks goes to our crews, and I think I saw Director Bowman on here earlier, and I'm sure she'll pass that on to the groups who deserve it the most, who were up all night with those pumps.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Along those lines, I just want to thank staff for ditching out Park Street a week and a half ago, just prior to the big melt. And I'm sure if they hadn't done that, we would have had some serious flooding. But it was alleviated by the fact that they that preemptively were able to move all the snow and ice that was in that ditch along Park Road. And then I know the neighbors had complained about it quite a bit, and they're quite happy to see it all done.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Anyone else? Councillor Orsatti.
Thank you. Just sharing that Jennifer Richardson from Ward 3, a very active resident in the community, is repeating again her very popular Discover Innisfil Car Rally and Scavenger Hunt, which is falling on 2 days between Saturday, March 26th and Sunday, March 27th. And anyone can go on her scavenger website to get more information and register. And all the money, once again, is going to the Innisfil Food Bank. So a great cause and a great way to discover little gems hidden throughout our community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nichol.
Sorry, Worship, just based on, just as Councillor mentioned about charity, I forgot actually that tomorrow night is the first of the year for the 100 Men That Give a Damn. Meeting is actually going to be held in person at the Lefroy Legion at 7 p.m. So anybody that has a little bit of time and maybe a couple of dollars and would like to stop by around 7 o'clock, there's some great prizes available and there's some great causes that can be helped out. So I'm happy to share any information if anybody else would like to know how to get in touch with them. Thank you.
Thank you for that. In the same vein, the 100 Women of South Simcoe met for the first time in person last night. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, but I did make my contribution, and it's another great group that is and it's just fun to do something social for a change. So I would encourage any women who are interested to join that group. I'd be happy to give you that contact information. Anything else for the good of the community? I just had a couple. So the 24th of February, I attended the 2021 Service Recognition Awards for South Simcoe Police. It was in person, although there was very limited capacity. So I'm sorry that you all couldn't be there with me, but I know that some of you were watching online, so thank you for that. It's just an opportunity for service awards for years of service and for retirements, but also for just outstanding service to our community and not only officers and civilian members of the service, but general public as well that have stepped up and been heroic during times of crisis. So it was lovely to be there and witness that. Also, as Jen mentioned, tomorrow the GoVax bus is going to be at the north parking lot of the RRC and most of the day, and then also again on March the 20th. So tomorrow, if you need a booster or a first or second or whatever it is you're after, you can go there. No appointment needed. And finally, speaking of COVID, we have a local resident, Steph Lawson. Mr. Lawson was one of the first people that I knew that acquired COVID at his work, and has had severe illness ever since, almost 2 years now. So he is doing a walk that starts at the Barrie City Hall at 10 o'clock Saturday morning, and he's going to attempt to walk to RVH. And he's raising money for what he calls his frontline heroes. And he's just been so thrilled with the service that he's received throughout the last 2 years, and he wants to do something to give back. And there is a GoFundMe page that you can access if you'd like to donate to Mr. Lawson. And I'm going to meet with him. I haven't quite figured out where yet, either at the beginning or when he arrives at RVH, but encourage you to support Mr. Lawson in his fundraiser. And that's all from me. Councillor Orsatti.
Sorry, thank you very much for the extra. I forgot the library has CD Saturday on the 26th of March. Usually that's in person. It'll be virtual online this year, but this is a great opportunity for people to pick up tips for their gardens. And so again, please check into the Innisfil Ideal Lab websites and get all the information. And it goes from 10 till 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And then I'll go to CAO Jershel. Anything for the good of the corporation? Nothing this evening? Okay, thank you. I think our announcements are longer than our meeting tonight. Thank you for that. All right, so that's it for announcements. So now we'll go to the confirming bylaw, and I will ask that Councillor Van Berkel and Councillor Orsatti move and second the confirming bylaw. All in favor? That is carried, and our adjournment would be Councillor Waters and Councillor Fowler. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, staff. Thank you, anybody who was watching, and you're welcome for it being 10 to 8 on a Wednesday night, and we're completed already. So have a good rest of the evening, and there's a special planning meeting, I believe, next Wednesday. So we'll see you all then.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night.
Good, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.